Over the course of my life, I have drank a lot of Mountain Dew. So much so, in college, my friends were like, Andrew, you drink it at lunch and supper, in between classes, every night in your dorm. You're addicted. You need to quit. They said, I bet you can't even go 1 week without drinking Mountain Dew. And I said, pshaw, I don't want to. But then I tried anyway. I went a whole week, quit cold turkey, no Mountain Dew. It was no problem. I did, during that week, write a song called Mountain Dew, I Love You. It wasn't a very good song. And then I went back to drinking it. John chapter 6 is what we'll be looking at this week in youth. John chapter 6 is a whole chapter about craving, about appetites. You know, what is your deep craving? Do you have a desire for Mountain Dew or caffeine? Do you like chocolate or pasta? These people had a craving for bread. And Jesus met them right in the middle of that craving, that hunger, and he invited them to think more deeply about it. He invited them to take that craving and say, look, maybe you're actually hungry for something deeper, something only I can satisfy. So look, John chapter 6 is a long chapter, 70 verses. I would break it into 4 chunks. So if you don't want to be lost on Wednesday night when we discuss, I would take 5 minutes, 4 different days this week to read. Let me go over a few things that can set you up for the first chunk. The first chunk is called Jesus feeds the 5,000. It's a really famous passage. John chapter 6, verse 1 through 15. It'll only take 5 minutes to read. Jesus feeds the 5,000. One thing I want you to pay attention to is the time of year. It's a special day of the year that Jesus does this miracle. So what is going on that day? What's special about it? Why would Jesus feel like it's important to feed his disciples bread, to feed this crowd of people bread on this day of the year? What is Jesus doing on that day that's special? And secondly, I want you to look at the way that the disciples are involved. What is Jesus doing with those disciples even while he's doing the miracle? Of course, the disciples can't feed anybody, but he doesn't leave them. He doesn't hang them out to dry. He draws them into the process. Have you ever seen Jesus do this in your life, where he invites you to step into something that's bigger than you, that's in over your head, something you don't have power to do? How does Jesus do this with the disciples? How does he do this in your life? And so, how do you react to situations that feel impossible? How do you respond to the cravings, to these deep desires and yearnings that you have? Like, how is Jesus working in those? Like, maybe they're not the most mature. Maybe they're not the most spiritual, but I believe Jesus wants to meet you even in those earthly appetites. And he wants to draw you in to something deeper, to show you a part of his deep spiritual plan for your life. So begin reading John chapter 6. It's a long chapter, and let's get hungry for Jesus.